welcome back to the Good Morning Artesia radio show. And Joby's here. We were just kind of talking about the old football game from Friday night before we got into the fishing report. But that was a pretty good football game, and I got confirmation from our athletic director that Artesia has the tiebreaker on the three-way tie. So if Goddard beats Roswell, and obviously we have to beat Alamogordo, then that presents a three-way tie for district, and we have the tiebreaker, so we would be the district champs on the tiebreaker. I'm not sure how they would decide second and third, or if that's even relevant when it comes to seeding and all that.
Well, they would decide it based on, so Goddard would have beaten Roswell, so they would be above Roswell.
They'd be above Roswell.
Right, if that were the scenario that played out.
But if Roswell wins, they're the district champs regardless of what happens.
We will be runner-up because we beat Goddard.
Right.
Assuming, like you said, we beat Alamogordo.
Right.
And so then, I mean, we've been ranked in the top five, all three of us, all three teams.
Yeah.
I was going to say all year, but since Roswell beat us, then all three of us have been in the top five. I think we dropped to fifth when Roswell beat us. Goddard has been number 2 or number 1, depending on what poll you look at. I take that back. They've been number 2 or 3 or number 2 or 3, depending on what poll you look at.
There's two undefeated teams.
There's Farmington and Los Lunas.
Right.
So they'll remain 1-2. But I'm just curious what happens with us. If Roswell stays 3 because they beat us, now we are 4 because we beat Goddard, and Goddard drops 5.
And as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, say Roswell wins district, then Goddard and Artesia can't be seated higher than Roswell when they come out with the
right. Well, Roswell would have to be seated higher.
They'd have to be seated higher,
and they'll be seated third
with a 5-5 record. Would they still get a third?
They'll still be seated third, yeah, because they'll be district champs. They'll have beaten 2 of the other top 6 schools and us and Roswell or Goddard, and I mean I can't see them not being seated third.
Okay.
Now if there were 3 undefeated other teams, maybe.
Yeah.
But district champ Deming, and there's probably going to be the district champ over there. And I don't remember the record. I think they've only got 2 or 3 losses to us, to Goddard, and maybe one other. So they're going to have a better record theoretically than Roswell. But I don't even think they'll be seated above us. I think Goddard and Artesia, being district runner-up and third in our district, will still be in the top 6 seeding, I think.
Well, we can talk about it. We'll
see what happens.
The main thing, of course, is they got to beat Alamogordo.
Right.
That's the number one thing, and then we'll just see what happens between Goddard and Roswell. That should be an interesting game.
It will be. It will be. You're right.
And we'll have our video people will be up there. It'll be the same video whether you go to the Goddard broadcast or the Roswell broadcast. But if you want to hear the Roswell announcers, you'd go to the Coyote side. If you want to hear the Goddard announcers, you'd go to the Goddard side.
And they're on Friday night, right? They're playing Friday night as well.
They're playing Friday night.
So same as us.
I have not heard any changes of any scheduled games for this weekend for football. So, and then one other thing I'll mention: volleyball tomorrow, playing Portales at the Pit. Radio and TV. Soccer is in the first round of the state tournament tomorrow, both boys and girls at the Mac Chase.
Both of them got home game first round. Awesome. And the girls won district.
The girls won district, and the boys got seeded 7. Girls got seeded 5, so they both have to play in the round of 12. And Artesia plays St. Pius, which is the 10 on the boys' game at 5. And then Artesia is the 5. Or Artesia is the 7 in the boys, and St. Pius is the 10. And then on the girls' side, Artesia is the 5, and they're playing the 12, which is Chaparral, and that'll be at 7 o'clock, back-to-back. I'm not sure how they're going to do the tickets. Are they going to count it as one game and you buy one ticket, or are they going to have to clear the field and then let everybody back in for the next one? I'm sure there'll be
I would bet on the second.
Yeah.
I think they'll clear the field.
Be prepared for that.
I think everybody will have to leave and then pay.
I wonder if you could just buy
them both at the front.
You come in.
That's what they should. That's what we should do.
Yeah.
And so if that's what I think that Artesia should do. The whoever's doing that.
You got a red ticket and a yellow ticket or whatever. If you
buy them both, you don't have to leave.
Then you don't have to leave. You
just hold them up when they walk by.
Yeah.
Got my tickets. And hoping for a big crowd out there. Of course, I'll be at the volleyball game. I have not been able to, I say that, been able to. I probably could have found a game that I could go watch. I just haven't done that. But I've never been into soccer. but we have soccer teams now. And how long ago did we start soccer here in Artesia? Has it been 10 years or longer?
Well, Wilburn was still here doing play-by-play, and we actually drug him out to do a soccer game one time.
So it's been at least, then that means it's been 12 years or so.
Yeah.
Because, no, that's not, no. I started.
Mike and I did 2 years.
Right.
And then you took over.
Right.
So,
and I started, 5 years ago, maybe?
Okay, so it'd be 7. So it's 8 or 9 years.
8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah. But somebody will correct us because
I'm always wrong, yes. Pretty regular basis.
I didn't say
No,
that.
I said when it comes to things like this, I tend to mess up.
Yeah.
So fishing.
Yes.
We are done with our season. We had our banquet. I am considering, I think I said this last week, at looking at doing a Christmas banquet for our club just to have another get-together this year.
Mm-hmm.
And also putting out an invite across the southeast here, or anywhere. Anybody can join, but and inviting people to come to that banquet. And so I'm looking at trying to get a date to do that, maybe the very first part of December. It's always difficult because Thanksgiving right at the end of November, and then Christmas, of course, and everything in there in between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Places where you can have stuff is usually booked, and so you got to do it well in advance. But I am looking at doing something like that, and possibly having it catered and have a meal, and because there are some places now with all the restrictions pretty much have been lifted. There's some meeting room venues other than a restaurant situation, but then having it catered, and so looking at doing that for Pecos Valley Bassmasters. New Mexico Bass Nation is still have things going on. The state or the regional champion came out of our state. And our non-boater ended up winning 4th at the regionals, and they're both going on to nationals, and that's coming up soon. So that's New Mexico Bass Nation news.
That's pretty exciting.
It is exciting, and they take the top 2, the top angler and top co-angler from every state gets to move on to national wherever they finish within their. So you might recall that each state that goes to regionals sends 10 boaters and 10 non-boaters. So every state is guaranteed 2 spots, no matter if they finish dead last so the top in their state get to go on to nationals. In our case, we actually had the top overall winner on the boater side. We actually had the number 2 winner too. So it's too bad because he can't go. I mean, he can't go because he finished second. Even though he finished second overall, he finished behind the guy that finished first, and he was from our state as well. So he doesn't get to go to nationals. But then on the non-boater side, one of our guys finished 4th, and he was obviously the highest in our state, so he gets to go. So they're going, and I think that's in November, if I remember correctly. Unfortunately, I don't remember the lake, but somewhere in the country. So they'll be traveling there. And then we will start we have our new officers in place, I think. I agreed somewhat reluctantly, but I agreed to stay on as the treasurer. I'm not the I was the secretary and treasurer, and that was pretty much a load, and I didn't want to do that again. Trying to keep minutes at meetings and things like that as a secretary. But so as far as our club goes, we're represented still on the executive committee as I'm the treasurer. Our other 2 guys stepped down. They were the president and the vice president.
Of the
New Mexico Bass Nation.
Right.
We had 2 other members of Pecos Valley that were the president and the vice president, and they both stepped down. So there's new officers there. That was Jeremy Fuentes and Mike Hill. We've talked about them a lot here on the show. And then Lee Johnson was our director out of our club, and he's stepping down from that. And Mike Hill, who was the VP for New Mexico Bass Nation, is now going to represent our club as our director. And the way that New Mexico Bass Nation works, I've probably explained it before, but I'll explain it again for those that might have interest in fishing with not only Pecos Valley, but at a part of the New Mexico Bass Nation, is it has executive committee, which consists of president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and a couple of other positions, conservation director, and actually I think those 4 are part of the executive committee. And then each club within the organization around our state, and we actually even have a club that's in Colorado that joined New Mexico because they're right there up in maybe Durango, or anyway, they're right on the border, and they joined our state, which is fine. Each club has a director that they can vote on or appoint that attends the New Mexico Bass Nation meetings, and those directors, that collective group, is who makes motions, votes, all that stuff. So like myself as the treasurer for New Mexico Bass Nation, I can't make a motion. I can't vote on motions. I mean, I can talk in our meetings, and I can say, well, I really like this. I mean, during the discussion, or I don't think we should do that, whatever.
But you're not a voting.
But I'm not a voting member, our director that represents our club. So theoretically, the way it should work, we weren't real effective this year. There was a lot of reasons. COVID, all new officers that had never been officers in the Mexico Bass Nation and things like that. But the way it should work is we have an agenda that we get out to all the clubs, maybe 2 to 4 weeks before our meeting. And that way, and because all the motions have to be put in before our meeting, which is a little unusual. Most organizations I've been involved in, I've served on a lot of board of directors, and you make the motions at the meeting. But in this case, because of the way the organization is set up, we want our entire Bass Nation, New Mexico Bass Nation, to kind of have a voice instead of just their director who may or may not know what his club wants. So motions have to go in a month or so prior to the actual meeting, and that way the executive committee, which is the president, can get those motions out to the entire organization, to every member. Then each club then can talk about the motions and direct their director on how they want them to vote.
Okay.
So that's how it works within our organization. I know there's going to be there's probably going to be a few changes made this coming year on how we do certain things, but it's like any other organization. You just look at what you're doing, and if you want to make some changes, then you make motions, then you vote, and majority rules. And so at this moment in time, I am the treasurer. There's a few things that have led me to believe I might step down, but I haven't yet. I'm going to work through some comments that have been made, some emails that I want to make sure I understand the direction New Mexico Bass Nation is going. Because, just because I disagree with it doesn't mean it needs to be my way. And secondly, if I disagree with it strong enough, then I shouldn't be part of the executive committee. I mean, I would recommend that to anybody. Don't be upset about something or thinking it's not right and still stay. So I've got to get some clarification on a few things from some emails that I've been a part of. But at this moment, I'm going to be the treasurer, and so next year, and if Pecos Valley has our banquet, like I'm going to try to set up, theoretically, what we're going to do is we'll have meal and we'll have a good time. We'll bring our spouse and just make it a nice event, dress up, kind of a deal, and then and at the end of our meal and everything, we'll have a short meeting where I want to discuss. I'm planning on taking a proposed schedule for next year.
Okay.
Already.
So you've been working on that.
Well, I will be. I have been in my head, but I've told you I got little tables. Anyway, I've got to put it in writing, and then I'm going to leave a couple of dates in limbo, because if we decide to as a club, I want to fish maybe in conjunction with New Mexico Bass Nation, which means that any of our club members that want to fish the nation tournaments could. And if they don't want to, they don't have to, but they could still be fishing. We'd have a tournament. And it makes it easier on those guys that want to fish nation tournaments.
Well, let me ask you this: if it's a tournament that's a Bass Nation tournament in conjunction with the Pecos Valley Bass, do the same fish count for both tournaments?
Yes.
Okay.
So, like this last year, and we've done it in years past. We hadn't done it in years past for a while until 2021. We fished in conjunction with one of the New Mexico Bass Nation weekend tournaments. The way that the nation does it is there's 4 tournaments in the year to qualify to make the team. One weekend or 2 weekends. So there are 2 one-day tournaments on those 2 weekends. So you get 4 tournaments.
Right.
Normally for Pecos Valley, we do a tournament. It's a weekend. It's Saturday and Sunday. One of the proposals that I'm going to, and I, as the president of the club, it's the same thing. I can't vote. I can't make motions. But I'm going to talk to our membership at Pecos Valley and say, would we consider doing one-day tournaments all year? One of the reasons is because as the worship pastor at Hermosa Drive Baptist, and my brother Jeff is the pastor there. We just don't want to miss that many Sundays if we don't have to, and obviously we can just decide not to go fishing, but we still want to fish too. So what I'm thinking is Pecos Valley, and they may not want to do it. If they don't, that'll be fine. But is our normal schedule be 2 one-day tournaments? And that way, if I say I really don't need to miss church this week, and then I can go fish this Saturday, then drive home Saturday night, be at church Sunday. Jeff could do the same. Anybody that is involved in their church could do the same. And so that's one of the proposals I'm going to talk to my club about. But anyway, if we fish in conjunction, back to that, then what we did this year in 2021 is we did it that same way. Our club said, okay, we're having 2 one-day tournaments. If you fish New Mexico Bass Nation, then all your fish count both. If you don't, you're just fishing the club. Then so
it's whatever you want to do.
Yep.
Got a little less than a minute left. Anything else that you want to share with folks? I guess this is a good time if people want to sign up to be a part of next year. This would be a good time to sign up.
This is a good time. We actually fished Saturday. My son and I and my dad and my brother and a bunch of people just went down to Brantley and had a fish Saturday morning, and I ran into a guy that I had not ever met, and he's from Carlsbad, and he's joining our club. So he's heard about us, and he's seen us on our website. So go if you are interested in fishing next year with the Pecos Valley Bassmasters.